The SEC ACC challenge is set, and the Kentucky Wildcats got exactly who they wanted to see in their matchup.
You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's going on, Big Blue Nation? Welcome on into Locked On Kentucky, your daily Kentucky Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Lance Dawe, and on today's episode of Locked On Kentucky, we've got the SEC ACC challenge here. All of the matchups have been released, and the Wildcats got exactly what they were looking for. Also on today's episode, this happened earlier this week, and the photos were released earlier today. The number one player in the 2026 class decided to take an official visit to Kentucky, and nobody knew he was there. Going to dive into all of that on today's episode, and today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. You can download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Thank you guys so much for making Locked On Kentucky your first listen every single day. I want to remind everyone out there that we are free and available on all platforms. If you're watching on YouTube, I would greatly appreciate it if you subscribe to the show, and if you are listening on podcast, I would also appreciate it if you subscribed there as well, trying to get to 20,000 subscribers before the start of the season, and I think we can do it. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed already. So the SEC ACC challenge has been set, and the Kentucky Wildcats got exactly who they were looking to play in the North Carolina Tar Heels. That's right, Caleb Wilson and company taking a visit to Rupp Arena later on this year. TBD as to what date that will be, but we are getting Carolina. This is the team that we wanted to see, and this is the team that everybody on social media seemingly wanted to add to this already loaded non-conference schedule, which we'll get to the entire non-con in just a little bit, but I am super fired up about the thought of playing a North Carolina team in Rupp Arena. It feels like it's been forever since that happened. Obviously, you think back to the year with Anthony Davis where we won that game, a very tightly contested matchup there, but man, I'm so excited to see what has been such a good rivalry specifically for the Cats over the last several years, make its way down to Rupp. Now, I say that, and I want to be clear. By no means am I expecting Kentucky to walk into Rupp Arena against the Tar Heels and just absolutely wipe the floor with them. It's going to be a very good team this year. Like I mentioned, Caleb Wilson being one of the big-time pieces there, the five-star recruit that ended up choosing the Tar Heels over the Wildcats. There should be a little bit of bad blood here, I would like to imagine. I would hope so, just to spark a little bit more, I guess, energy in this rivalry. But man, over the past several years, whenever Kentucky and North Carolina have matched up on a neutral floor, it has been super, super fun, at least for Big Blue Nation. Obviously, you think back to 2 seasons ago where Kentucky won a thriller 87-83. Then you also think about, I believe, in 2022, Kentucky absolutely ran them out of the gym 98-69 in a game where I think Severe Wheeler and Oscar Shibwe just went absolutely ham. Yeah, Severe with 26 points on 12 of 15 shooting. Goodness gracious, 8 turnovers, 2 assists. Sometimes I feel like Severe is one of the more forgotten Kentucky Wildcats of all time. And it's crazy because I started doing this show with him at point guard, and here we are now. It just feels like light years from that time period with Severe at PG. Anyway, I'm rambling. Point being, I'm excited about this matchup. I think it should be a lot of fun. We've beaten them a lot recently. I hope that continues here later on this year. UNC Kentucky should be very, very fun. I want to talk about the SEC ACC challenge as a whole, though. We've got some other really fun matchups here, and I've got a question for you guys to about, 4 minutes into this show. Who would you prefer to win, Louisville or Arkansas? And if you said, well, I'd like to see them both lose, unfortunately, you won't have a choice whenever the Cardinals travel to face the Razorbacks in the SEC ACC challenge later this year. That's right, Louisville versus Arkansas. There. And then you've also got matchups like Duke versus Florida. That should be just an all-time barn burner. Auburn hosting NC State, a team that I think should be preseason top 25. Both those teams hovering somewhere between 15 to 25, I would think, to start the season. That should be a very, very, very fun game there in Neville Arena. You've also got Texas hosting Virginia in a matchup of mid. You've also got Alabama hosting Clemson, and it's such a shame that it's not this team from last season. This is a rematch of, I believe, that Elite Eight matchup from a couple of seasons ago. Clemson losing quite a bit while still keeping Brad Brunell as head coach, facing off the Crimson Tide against the Crimson Tide, who I think that Alabama should be very good this year. I think they're one of the 3 best teams in this league, but I do think Clemson could absolutely give them some problems there on the road. You've got Wake Forest hosting Oklahoma in another battle of mid, and then a game that I think that people are underestimating here, Vanderbilt hosting SMU. I think that should be a very fun contest. You look to the rest of the games here. You've got Florida State hosting Georgia. You've got Notre Dame hosting Missouri, which I think that should be pretty fun. Syracuse hosting Tennessee. I said this, I think, late last season, like in March or February, and I want to reiterate it here. College basketball is better as a whole, frankly, whenever Kentucky is really good. But whenever Syracuse is good in the ACC, college basketball is peak. And I really do hope the Orange take out the Vols. South Carolina hosting Virginia Tech. Boston College hosting LSU. Ole Miss hosting a renewed Miami squad. That should be a fun game. Georgia Tech hosting Mississippi State. That should also be pretty fun. And then Pittsburgh hosting Buckyball and Texas A&M. That should also be a pretty fun contest. Evenly matched, I would say, across the board. Maybe outside of Tennessee versus Syracuse. I mean, you're looking across the board here, and every single team, I think, matches up well with the other in terms of quality of program, at least in their current state. I think Tennessee, Syracuse, and Ole Miss, Miami might be the 2 big outliers there. This should be fun. This should be a very, very fun season. I see a lot of people, or challenge here for both these conferences. I've seen a lot of people on Twitter saying, "Oh, the SEC is going to sweep this. Oh, it's going to be nothing. It's going to be absolutely nothing." Look, I know the SEC was really, really good a season ago. At the same time, I don't really know if we can expect the SEC to do what they did again, to replicate the dominance that they had across the sport. Obviously, last year's dominance was reflected in this challenge, but things I think are going to look just a little different. And I'm so glad Kentucky's at home instead of on the road, albeit against I think a more difficult North Carolina team than maybe that Clemson team might have been, and that Clemson team beat us. So we'll see how it goes. All right, I want to talk about Kentucky's non-conference schedule as a whole, because goodness gracious, it is tough. And you're starting to see across college basketball, I mean, you've got teams like Kansas, Duke, North Carolina included, Auburn a season ago. I mean, some of these top-tier programs are loading up their non-conference slate with quad one opportunities. Wildcats are no different. We're going to break that down here in just a second. Before I do it, though, I'll tell you guys about our friends over at Game Time. Guys, I cannot tell you how fun it has been in the past for me to be able to go see the Wildcats in person, and Game Time makes it really easy to get tickets to any Kentucky event that you want to go to. And right now, obviously, the Cats aren't playing, but the NBA playoffs are going on. It's quality basketball across the board. You guys know what I'm talking about here. You've seen a lot of quality basketball from the Wildcats. The intensity here as the Pacers go up 2-1, the buzzer beaters, the fans losing their minds. It's the kind of atmosphere you must experience live. It's the same thing in Rupp Arena. This year's matchups have already delivered, and if you want in, Game Time makes it fast and easy to get seats, even for the biggest playoff games. Prices on the Game Time app actually drop closer to tip-off, and with killer last-minute deals, panoramic seat views, and no surprise fees, Game Time is a total game changer. I just posted about this on Twitter. I think 2 days ago, I have officially secured tickets to go see Kentucky Gonzaga later on this year in Bridgestone Arena in Nashville. If some of you guys are going to be there, hit me up. It's going to be a lot of fun. I cannot wait to see the Cats again. It's been a minute since I've been able to actually go see them at a neutral site like this. This should be very fun. I went to the Game Time app, immediately found the best deal I could possibly get, and obviously, if you use the code LOCKEDONCollege, you get $20 off your first purchase as well, which I did, and it was just an incredible experience, or it has been an incredible experience to use Game Time in the past. When I want to go to college football games, I immediately go to Game Time. I'm in, I'm out. I know they've got the best deals. I know they've got the lowest prices. They've got pictures from where the seat is, and it ends up being even better in person, which, to be honest with you, I'm actually kind of fired up about, because the seats I got in Bridgestone look incredible. You can take the guesswork out of buying your tickets with Game Time by downloading the Game Time app, creating an account, and using code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, continuing along here on the Wednesday edition of Locked On Kentucky. Lance Dawe hanging out here with you. Apologies for the late post here. This has been a very chaotic couple of days for your boy, but appreciate you guys tuning in. Look, if you've not subscribed to the show yet, would love it if you did so. Trying to get to 20,000 subscribers before the start of the season, and I think we could pull it off, and a lot of you guys have already joined up, so if you haven't already, please go ahead and do so. Let's talk about Kentucky's non-conference slate as a whole. Because as of right now, it's unreal, and they still have games to add to this. Now, these are going to be some of those mid-major contests. I hate to say it like this is the only way I can think of right now. Some of these no-name schools. Respectfully, I think a lot of the teams that Kentucky will bring in will probably have some history and culture that, of course, we'll dive into when the matchups happen. But as of right now, it's pretty freaking stacked, dude. So we'll start at the top. Purdue, obviously, coming in for an exhibition game. You guys realize how good Purdue's going to be? Kaufman Wren, Braden Smith, and then I think I've already talked about this guy. I think this is probably my third or fourth time I've talked about this guy on the show. If you guys remember, I think mid-season, I was talking about players that Kentucky could possibly go after that would enter the transfer portal. I think I talked about 3. And one of them was Oscar Clough from, I believe, South Dakota State. A 6'10 center. And at the time, statistically, one of the more dominant big men that we've seen, especially at the mid-major levels, in a while. He was one of the best, if not the best rebounder in the country. He was one of the best defenders in the nation. He had one of the highest field goal percentages in the country. He was very, very, very good. And because of his numbers and because of his play, I'm like, hey, he was a really good distributor for his position. Kept looking at him going, hey, this would be a great guy for Kentucky to look at. And of course, obviously, he ends up entering the transfer portal and going to Purdue. But I have it pulled up here, 6'11", 260. He was first in the nation in defensive rebound percentage, 5th in offensive rebound percentage. He was 20th nationally in true shooting percentage. He was 85th in percentage of possessions used. He was 94th in free throw rate, which is crazy for a big. And as a center, he shot 78% from the charity stripe. He shot 62% inside the arc. He only took 6 threes, but he was 4 of 6 from beyond the arc. You look at guys like Fardaws Aimaq and then somebody like Tim Kempton as the comparisons here. We know who Aimaq is. We covered him way back when. After he was transferring from, I believe it was Utah Valley. Yeah, how about that? Went to play at Texas Tech and then California after that. Man, that was one of those transfers, one of the first transfers I talked about on this show. That's a crazy throwback. Got a lot of throwback conversation here between Wheeler and Aimaq today. Anyway, Oscar Clough is a very, very good player. From Australia, by the way, I made up. Statistically, one of the more dominant players in the country out last year. And he's going to be playing at center for Purdue, who already has an incredibly stacked roster with their front court and Smith and Kaufman Wren. It's going to be a very, very tough out for Kentucky in their exhibition game. If they're able to pull that off, that'll be awesome. I hope we don't overreact too much because it is a game that doesn't count towards the record. So if you get blown out or if you blow them out, who knows what'll happen. But it'll still be a very, very fun game nonetheless. You've obviously got Georgetown as well. With Cooley coming into town, another exhibition game. I'm trying so hard not to sneeze right now. But Purdue and Georgetown are your 2 exhibition games. How about a step up, man, from maybe some of these from these lower level schools that you've been playing in exhibition contests. All of a sudden now you got Purdue and Georgetown freaking coming in. That's awesome. Louisville on the road is also on the docket. Unfortunately, very early in the season. I hope Jaden Quaintance is healthy. We'll see. The more I've thought about it, maybe Kentucky will benefit from playing Louisville early because Kentucky came out of the gate firing last year. You've also got Michigan State at a neutral site. You've got Loyola Maryland here as well. Tennessee Tech at home. Gonzaga, obviously, like I mentioned, at the neutral site in Nashville. I'm going to be there. NC Central at home. Indiana here. We had an episode here with Jacob Goins, host of Locked On Hoosiers, talking about that rivalry, and both these teams should be a very fun one. St. John's in Atlanta should be fun. Bellarmine at home, and then obviously to cap this off, UNC. So the big-time names there, Purdue, Louisville, Michigan State, Gonzaga, Indiana, St. John's, North Carolina. That is a crazy non-con schedule. You have what there? As far as games that matter, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different quad one opportunities If you're able to go 4-2 in those games, you get 4 quad 1 wins before the freaking SEC slate starts. And we know that thing's going to be chock full of those things. I am so happy that Kentucky has gone out and gotten these big time names to come play to come play specifically in Rupp with North Carolina, Indiana specifically, and then obviously you've got Purdue and Georgetown coming in, but those don't count. I'm so excited that we get to see a very competitive, tough slate, because it would be boring if it was just, oh, we're playing these no-name schools and we're just bulldozing people. It not only would it be boring, it would be severely detrimental to our resume because, like I said a little bit ago, all of these other big-time programs in college basketball are filling their stuff up with these quad 1 opportunities. Go and look at Kansas's non-con schedule. Go and look at Duke's. It's quad 1 big-time program opportunities across the board. And Kentucky's got to keep up with that. And I'm glad that they have done so here. I'm going to talk about Tyran Stokes here in just a second. Before I do that, I want to remind you guys, look, if you have not subscribed, would love it if you did so. But also, if you have any questions for the show about Kentucky basketball, about maybe how the offseason's going to go, you can leave that in the comments below. At some point here soon, I am going to talk about Vince Marrow leaving for Louisville. I'm going to talk about the state of Kentucky's football program. I've just felt nothing but apathy towards Mark Stoops and the football program for a hot minute now, because it's like they haven't really done anything on the field, and off the field, they've not done anything to kind of win over my excitement as a fan. And so it's very difficult when all of the focus has been put on college basketball and the excitement and the hype and the theater around what Mark Pope is doing with this program. It's so hard to get yourself excited about, oh, let's talk about 4-8 Kentucky and Mark Stoops, where they don't have a future. That's the problem. At this point, I'm waiting stuff out. I'm waiting to see, okay, when is the next head coach coming in? We're having those conversations now. Of course, all of Twitter wants to tell us we've got motivated Mark Stoops, and we're sitting here just excited to see whatever he does now that he's motivated to go out there and compete. To all of that to say, with Kentucky football right now, I am in a show me. I guess that's my opinion right now. It's just show me. That's kind of my mood right now. Prove to me that you're actually worthy of my attention over the excitement and the thrill of Mark Pope and the Kentucky Wildcats. It's just I will root for them. Absolutely. We'll talk about them on Saturdays. When the SEC Media Days rolls around here in July, we'll talk about what Mark Stoops has to say. We'll talk about what's going on there, obviously. And whenever the season actually gets closer, we'll discuss it. But as of right now, we got Tyran Stokes visiting, which, in case you don't know, Stokes is the number 1 overall player in the 2026 class. This upcoming recruiting cycle, the number 1 player. And he just sort of came, I believe, on Monday. And was just, he might have been here for multiple days. Excuse me, he arrived on June 8th. Yeah, so he was here Sunday, Monday. And nobody knew about it. Nobody knew that he was taking an official visit. Now, earlier this year, when we talked about Stokes, we were like, okay, he's actually, I believe he had a visit scheduled for, I think, May, I want to say. It might be wrong. And then it got canceled, and he said he'd reschedule it, and we didn't hear anything. And I was like, well, crap, I guess we might be out of maybe the race for now with somebody like Stokes, because he's giving more attention to some of these other schools. He's a Louisville native. Maybe he wants to give more attention to teams like Louisville and Kansas. He's already taken visits there. And then, boop, he's just on campus. Nobody knows about it. 6'7", 225-pound small forward. Kid has an insane, strong, I would say, core and lower body strength that allows him to kind of bulldoze his way to the rim and score at will, it feels like, at various points. It's not like the most like explosive, high profile, I'm going to dunk on you every, like VJ Edgecombe, going to go crazy at the rim on you. But like he's a powerful prospect. The reason why he's the number 1 player in the nation. You cannot stop this kid from getting to the rim. And a lot of it has to do with just the core strength and just getting through people. I love this kid's highlight tape because it makes me wonder, okay, if Kentucky has somebody like him that's able to get to the rim with such ease, what does it do for the offense if he becomes a facilitator? if he is able to go inside out, that makes Kentucky a very dangerous team because of the spot-up shooters that they're going to have surrounding a kid like this. And then you also have the Jason Crow element. The Jason Crow Jr., one of the best point guards in next year's class, somebody that Kentucky is already in on because of recruiting ties, commenting on Tyran Stokes' posts on social media about him coming to Kentucky, a little wink emoji. Dude, we could be in for, after this season, regardless of what happens this year, a very fun 26-27 season. If you could somehow land Stokes and Jason Crow, that would be so, so fun to watch. Two extremely talented kids. But talk about Mark Pope. Once again, just kind of moving in silence here. This has been the memo. This has been what Kentucky has done with this staff, as they've just kind of gone out quietly about their business. And when it comes to these big-time prospects, they don't tell anybody that it's happening. And then you look up one day, and the number one overall player in next year's class is just chilling on campus. Kentucky is not out of this race yet. You can find the photos all over social media. Stokes posted them himself. I believe various outlets like obviously Sea of Blue, KSR, other places wrote about this. I'm not quite sure how the visit itself went. I'm sure that there are different insiders that could probably give you some information about that. But, man, I'm so fired up about the fact that they could actually get him here without anybody knowing. Again, 6'7", 225-pound player. He is the number one overall player in the class, according to 24/7 Sports. Out of Louisville, Kentucky, Notre Dame High School there. On3 has his NIL value at $1.6 million out of the gate. Kentucky, Kansas, Louisville, Arkansas, and Oregon also all in on this as well. If you want to go read what Jamie Shaw of On3 wrote about him earlier this year, I think we might have talked about this already, the scouting report. He's got flashes of dominance. Outputs are too much to ignore at this point in the cycle. When he gets downhill, he is a load to deal with. Whether in the half court or transition, he is a strong base, explosive burst, and gets downhill with a purpose, as we just talked about. You talked about Coach Pope earlier this year, last July, according to On3, and Kentucky was among the schools pushing hardest for him. Mark Pope, Bill Self at the top of the list, because Stokes told KSR that Kentucky is still close to home, and it's a great program with a great coach. Mark Pope's a great dude. He's always texting me, catching up, and telling me congrats on the games and stuff like that. For the most part, I'm talking to Coach Mark Pope, so it's great to see the head man there in on this prospect. We'll see what happens, but the fact that we were able to get him in and it not be known, almost sneezed, is incredible. We'll see where the recruitment goes from here. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Kentucky. You can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On UK, follow me on Twitter at LanceDawe_, and follow the show over on Instagram. That is at Kentucky Podcast. Any questions, comments, concerns, you can leave those in the YouTube comments below. Hit me on the socials. I will see you all tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Kentucky. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and of course, God bless.